Well, here we are, my final video of MLB The Show 22. We're only a few days away from MLB 23's release at this point, and every year I like to do this video where we go back and, do a little year-in review on Diamond Dynasty, talk about the high and the low points, some of the positives and negatives, and I just give you guys my overall opinion on how I felt about the game this year. Now, there isn't going to be any gameplay in this video. I did just post a video playing my final game of MLB 22, so check that out if you're interested. But for now, let's go ahead and get into it. So we're going to start with the positives first. So the first thing I want to talk about is lineup diversity and variety. I've said this before, but MLB 22 has the best lineup variety of any Diamond Dynasty game that we've seen. I'm sure it has happened, but it's very rare if it does. But I can't remember very many times loading into a Diamond Dynasty ranked seasons game and seeing my opponent's lineup look exactly the same as mine. And you can't say that for other Diamond Dynasty games like MLB 19, MLB 20, all fairly similar lineups. But this year, there's so many viable cards and so many really good different types of card series that you can really just use whoever you want and you still have a viable competitive lineup. And I think this also had a positive impact on gameplay as well, especially when you look at the pitching side of things, because MLB 21 had a bit of a balancing issue when it came to starting pitchers and the cards that were the best by the end of the year. Basically, every good starting pitcher in MLB 21 was a milestone card, either a perfect game or a no-hitter or something like that. And they released those cards a little early, and it kind of threw off the power curve of the game a little bit. This year, we didn't have that issue. They did a great job at diversifying the type of cards that you could actually use. And overall, like I said, lineup diversity, in my opinion, has never been better, and I loved building teams this year. The next area I want to talk about in my positives is featured programs. Now, let me be clear. I do have some issues with featured programs. I will highlight those in the negatives, but overall, as a structure, I did like featured programs. I thought they were an improvement on the inning programs from MLB 21 because MLB 21 kind of took a step back in that aspect. The inning programs, in my opinion, were not as good as they had been in MLB 20 and even 19. And I thought the featured program was a good change because they didn't back themselves into that corner of having to release a boss pack with only 3 players. They were able to be more flexible. Some packs had 3 players, some had 5, some had 1, some had 9. There was just more variety across the board, and I found that to be a little bit refreshing. And the rewards you get along the way were valuable as well for either collections or just stub value. There was a lot of incentive to grind out featured programs this year, and I thought they were a good change. But like I said, still some negatives. We'll get there. Moving over to the other programs, I found a lot of these to be fairly high points for the game as well, specifically ones like the Goats and Ghouls program with the 99 Miguel Cabrera at the end. Even the Joe Nathan I saw a lot of use from. Greg Maddux I had seen. Trevor Story got a lot of use. Of course, you had the Moonshot, the Extreme program coming back was really exciting for me. And also one-off programs like the Aaron Judge program. I thought that was great for them to release that after he hit that milestone. The David Ortiz program for the Hall of Fame induction. Things like that are really fun ways, and it shows that SDS is in touch with these things and they know how to capitalize on some type of hype. But similar to the featured programs, I am going to come back to this because I do have some issues as well. And once again, you're going to notice that a lot in this video. A lot of the areas of the game have some positives and some negatives as well. It's kind of a tough year to really judge Diamond Dynasty. Next, I want to talk about mini seasons because I really like this mode for the offline grinders. This is a great way to play for something other than just a reward. You're winning a championship. Sure, you don't get the craziest rewards. You get like, a 20-pack bundle or a 10-pack bundle, and you get some stuff. And we've already seen some improvements that they're going to be making in MLB 23 with more like themed mini seasons and just kind of the mode being expanded and fleshed out a little bit. I'm really looking forward to that. And even though you don't have to play for the actual rewards, it did kind of suck that we did only have 3 player rewards. We had that Evan Longoria, we had Takashi Johnny Damon, and then Finest Willie Adames. Only 3 player rewards for an entire new mode. I don't know. I kind of was disappointed by that, and I really hope they don't do that again next year. Like, if this is a mode you want people to play, give people who might not already be playing it a reason to play. Here's another positive that I found to be one of the more underrated changes of Diamond Dynasty this year. That's the event rewind packs, or basically just rewind packs as a whole, but they work the best, in my opinion, in the events. Let's say there's an event that you just have no desire to play. It's stadium locked at Polo Grounds on Hall of Fame, and you can only use guys with like 99 speed. Maybe that sounds fun to you, maybe it doesn't. With the rewind packs, you don't have to play that event. You can wait until the next one and be like, oh, I'm gonna play this one now. I'll get that rewind pack, get my reward for that last event. It's not gonna be the same stub value that it was when it originally came out, but you still have an opportunity to get the card without having to force yourself to play something you don't want to play. But on the other side, if you do decide to play the event and you get the reward, you can sell that reward for a lot, and then in the next event, you can just get it from the pack and you make 100% profit on that sale of the market. This was my go-to way to make stubs. Another really underrated change, or maybe not underrated because a lot of people did appreciate it, but it was the draft in Battle Royale having dedicated rounds for the silver, bronze, and gold players that had missions attached to them. When they originally added the BR program back in MLB 21, we just kind of had to hope that we got the cards that were exclusive to those packs. And if you didn't, well, you weren't making any progress in that mission. So people would unnecessarily redraft until they get that card that they wanted. And then even when they get that card that they wanted, they might not have a team that they really felt like was good. So maybe you go 0-2 and then you just have to restart that whole process. Adding that dedicated round was huge for helping people get these missions done. And for me, it made the BR program significantly more enjoyable to grind. And lastly, for my positives, I want to talk about collections because I felt like collections in terms of the cards were very good this year. I thought the live series collections of Clemente for the NL, Frank Thomas for the AL, and Randy Johnson for the full MLB live series, I thought those were 3 really good choices. Even though there's a better Randy Johnson in the game now, you can still use signature Randy Johnson and have success. Roberto Clemente is a perfect early game card to release, and Frank Thomas, since first base is so loaded, he's a great early game option who can still be used today, so all 3 of these cards had value in one way or the other. But then we get to the Legends and Flashbacks collection, and I thought the cards they chose for these were very good. Specifically George Brett, Andrew McCutchen, and Jimmy Rollins. All 3 of those choices were perfect. Because yes, we have seen these players get good versions of their cards in the past, but by the time they're released, there's either a lot of other cards that could challenge them at that position, or they're just not as good as some of the other top players in that position. You can absolutely use every single collection reward still to this day on your God Squad, and you're gonna have one of the better teams out there. But even with these cards being as juiced as they were, going back to what I said with the lineups, you didn't have to get these guys in order to have a competitive team. These collections are meant to reward players who are constantly on the game, who are grinding out all the pieces of content, holding on to all these rewards because you get a big, exciting reward later on. Some of these, especially the Mickey Mantle one, were pretty expensive, but if you played the game year-round, you could get this card pretty easily, and it's meant to reward the players that do that. So I found collections to be great this year. I enjoyed all of them, and now we're gonna go ahead and jump into some negatives. So remember how I said I was gonna come back to programs? Well, arguably my biggest negative when it came to Diamond Dynasty this year had to do with programs, and specifically the way you earned progress in them. The programs that I enjoyed grinding the least were the monthly awards programs, and that's a shame because I really enjoyed them last year and the year before. But across the board this year, not just in the monthly awards programs, but pretty much every program as a whole, they made a significant focus on parallel XP grinding. Now, on paper, parallel XP grinding sounds great because let's say, for sake of argument, let's look at this mission with Seth Brown. In previous years, you'd probably have a mission with him where it says, get 5 base hits with Seth Brown. Well, if you load into a game and you line out with Seth Brown, you get 0 progress towards that mission. But with the parallel system, you get that same line out, you still get credit for the at-bat. You get those parallel points. So no matter what, you are always getting at least a little bit of progress towards your mission. However, the way parallel grinding works, you need to get through 8 hitters or you need to get through 3 innings, whatever the requirements are, and it makes the grind last so much longer than it needs to. Maybe some people like that. Maybe some people don't like just jumping into a play versus CPU game, playing 1 inning and then quitting. But for me, I like to go after the cards that I want to get for whatever reason. If I'm building a team or I just want to use the player, I want to find the fastest way to get that player. And a lot of players who are like me were forced to slow down the grinding so much because we had to get all of these parallel missions done. Eventually, later on in the year, they turned down the amount you needed for hitters, but getting 500 parallel XP with a hitter doesn't sound like a lot, but it takes a little bit longer than you think. Now, I wouldn't have nearly as much of an issue with this if it was focused on just the monthly awards program or just a specific thing. Dude, you had to get parallel XP basically everywhere. Like All-Star program, parallel XP. The Mini Minoso program, getting parallel XP with White Sox. It's even in the David Ortiz program. it just became really unenjoyable to grind for offline content this year. And if you like the parallel XP grinding, that's fine. Feel free to disagree with me in the comments. It's just for me and the way I like to play the game, I wasn't a fan. I don't like making the grind longer than it needs to be. Now, next up, let's jump back to the featured programs, because I did have this as a positive. I said I liked the structure. However, the featured program basically took inning programs from last year and Team Affinity and basically combined them. So we did not have Team Affinity in MLB The Show 22, and I didn't like that. Team Affinity was a go-to way for people to earn cards in this game for, what, 3 years? And then they just took it out for this one general program, which once again, I like, but I don't think the trade-off of having to get rid of Team Affinity was worth it. Now, granted, we do know that Team Affinity will be making a return in MLB 23, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this point because we're getting it back. But since we're talking about this game, I just had to reference it because sometimes the grind wasn't nearly as enjoyable. It was nice to go for just a specific team or a specific division rather than having to get everything at once. Okay, next up, I'm gonna jump into ranked seasons. Now, I will say I did actually enjoy ranked seasons more this year than I did in 21. However, the issue I had with ranked seasons this year was the reward path being tied to innings instead of wins. I don't think wins is the right way to do it. I also don't think innings played is the right way to do it. They might have already made a change and announced it. I can't remember, but they had the data this year. I don't know about you guys, but I noticed significantly more people quitting out of games this year than I had ever had in the past. And I kind of feel like adding the innings requirement almost had the opposite effect of what they were intending. So I don't know what the right change is. Maybe something counts for double if you play a full game, or you know, it's based off games played, or I don't know. I don't know what it is. But innings to me just it didn't work. It had the opposite effect in my opinion. And I can talk about more negatives, like I feel like packs could still be better. I still feel like packs kind of get a little bit boring towards the middle and end of the year. But the last thing I'll really touch on is just an issue I have with them stopping content so early. Basically, when Mickey Mantle came out as that final collection, the game was done. And I know they're on a year-to-year cycle, so they have to put, you know, more emphasis on the next game coming out than the current one, because obviously the player base is much lower. But for the people that do still play the game, I can't imagine like one card a week being that much of a taxing thing in the studio. Maybe I'm ignorant because I don't know anything about game design. I know it's difficult, and I know it's not as easy as everybody seems to make it out to be on social media, but I just struggle wrapping my head around them being okay with their game basically just being dead for almost 4 months. It blows my mind that there is basically nothing that comes out from the end of Finest until the launch of the next game. We used to have content that came out in like February and stuff. Even if it was boring, at least it was something to say, hey, we know the game is dead. Here's just a little thing we threw out there. The new game comes out in a month or two. Just stick with us. Here's a little thing like that just can't be that difficult in my opinion. Anyway, though, that's my positives and negatives, and I guess from here I'll talk about some things that I hope for MLB 23. I really hope we get a new type of competitive mode where maybe it's like a weekend league style mode. You give people a reason to play and a reason to actually be competitive other than just grinding a leaderboard in ranked seasons. Maybe there's a certain player at the end of that or a certain pack that's exclusive to just that mode. I don't know. I also would like to see more rare cards because I've been playing a lot of Destiny, and in Destiny they have a lot of rare items and a lot of rare exotic weapons and rare armor pieces, and it's really exciting when you finally get those because they are so unique compared to everything else. I don't feel like MLB The Show has that. Yeah, they have some of the better players that you kind of know, like, you know, Mickey Mantle is probably the best center fielder in the game, but he doesn't feel very rare. He doesn't really feel unique. But I don't know how they can do that to make it where it's not too overpowered. I'm not sure. It's just something I'd like to see. I feel like it would spice it up. And yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot about Diamond Dynasty already. We played the tech test. I'm really excited for ranked co-op. And overall, I am looking forward to 23, but for 22, this definitely wasn't my favorite year of Diamond Dynasty. I don't know if I would say it's a step back or a step forward from MLB 21. This, to me, really kind of just did feel like MLB 21 V2. I think MLB 23 has the potential to make the biggest change to the game mode that we've seen in a while with the sets and season stuff, but overall for 22, it just felt like another version of 21 to me, and 21 was not my favorite. I think this game took steps forward and backwards from 21, so it really is just kind of like a, I don't know, maybe a 6 out of 10, 6.5, something like that. I don't know. That's my opinion on it. If you loved this year's game, feel free to let me know in the comments. Tell me why. But other than that, I think that's where I'm going to call it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my final video on MLB 22. That means the next time I upload a video, you're going to see me with MLB The Show 23, and I am excited. I hope you guys are excited as well. Thank you for all the support on MLB 22. It was a fun year, even with the ups and downs. I'm ready to crush it for MLB 23. I'm ready to get back on the video grind. I'm really excited. I hope you guys are as well. So I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.